Venezuela is warning the world that the U.S. intervention could have global consequences. At an emergency meeting today at the United Nations, Venezuela's ambassador to the UN told the Security Council that international law and order is on the line.
Allowing such acts to go without an effective answer would amount to normalizing the replacement of law by might, while eroding the very foundations of the collective security system. Today, it is not only Venezuela's sovereignty that is at stake.
Joining me now is Bob Rae. He's a former Canadian ambassador to the United Nations. Bob Rae, just when you thought it was safe to leave the UN, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today, sir.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Was not expecting this on Saturday morning when my phone started getting a lot of alerts. I mean, there's not a lot of people around the world shedding tears for the end of the Maduro regime, but they are deep concerns about the legality of what has happened. What's your sense on whether international law has been violated in this?
Well, I mean, I don't know how you could not be troubled by a unilateral decision to capture the president of another country and take them and he and his wife to face a trial in the United States. I mean, that's, if you say you were surprised and you woke up saying nobody's sad to see, well, yeah, I mean, it's all this, David. This is a classic, Catechism 101, right? To the end justify the means. Mm. You might say, well, yes, we'd like to have a president of Venezuela who's democratic, who's pluralistic, who believes in the rule of law, who treats people fairly. He doesn't torture people. He doesn't throw people in jail. He doesn't destroy the opposition, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the Chavez-Maduro regime in Venezuela has been a nightmare by any stretch of the imagination. Created over 8 million refugees. Go down the list, you could say these are terrible, terrible things that have happened. Yes, true. Then the question is, what do you do about it? And how do you deal with it? And President Trump has decided, well, there's only one way to deal with it, and that's to go in and get the guy and put him on trial in New York City. Well, that's going to create a problem for a lot of people. And from the perspective of international law, it is a problem. It doesn't mean that we all embrace the rhetoric from the Venezuelan ambassador that, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. I mean, the Venezuelan ambassador knows better than anybody the number of people that Maduro has thrown in jail and killed and brutalized and have been tortured under his regime. But we do have to be aware of the problem. And in fact, the justification for this step changed in the middle of the president's press conference. First, it was deal with narco-terrorism and this is a bad guy. We've got to put him on trial. He's facing charges. We've got a legal process. That's what we'll do. Well, that seems straightforward enough until you then say, and oh, by the way, we're running Venezuela. Yeah, we're running it. You heard it, and we all heard it. And then, oh, and by the way, we're running the oil industry. We need to have the oil industry. And you say that this is, you can't have a world where the narrative changes every 5 seconds. And where the justification just becomes a return to, it's not just gunboat diplomacy, but it's formal imperialism, where a country says we're taking over. Then today, the story changes again. Secretary Rubio says, no, we're not running the country. President Trump says, yes, we are running the country. So we've got a lot of things to sort out here, but we need to understand that this is not politics or business as usual in the Americas or anywhere else. And now Greenland's into the picture. Right. Threatening a NATO partner. There is a place called the Kingdom of Denmark. It's a real place. It's been a real place for hundreds and hundreds of years. They've had a relationship with Greenland for many, many, many years. The Kingdom of Denmark has Greenland as part of it. It's been recognized internationally. And you can't just pick a country and say, flip a switch and say, oh, wait a minute, it's not you, it's you. I listened very carefully to what Katie was saying. I firmly believe that there is absolutely no room for complacency as far as Canada is concerned.
Well, if I can just jump in there.
And I don't think anybody, somebody said, is everybody at risk? I said, well, it depends, I guess, what region you're in. If you're close to Putin, you're at risk. If you're close to some other dictator, you're at risk. If you're close to China, you're at risk. And yeah, this is the world these guys want to carve up. It's crazy.
Well,
We have
he's
a
been
rule
he's
of
been
law.
citing
We have
President
international
He's been citing President McKinley's tariff policy and now President Monroe's foreign policy, right? And saying that essentially his view is a corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. And they put out the State Department put this out on social media today, saying this is our hemisphere. So you see that. I mean, that is not just our country, our self-interest. It is the whole geographic region of spanning multiple continents.
Yeah, but with great respect to the State Department, David, this is our hemisphere. I could put out a little thing on YouTube saying this is my hemisphere. This is our hemisphere. Like, what the hell is this? You can't unilaterally declare that you have unique jurisdiction over an entire half of the world, and all the people who live in that half of the world just have to put up or shut up. And that's not how the world works. It's not right. If we go down this path, we're going down a path where there will be no freedom, there will be no rule of law. Nobody is safe. You could get picked up overnight. You could be refused entry to the United States because you allowed some maniac named Bob Rae on your television program. I mean, anything can be justified or thrown up in their face. At some point, the rule of law has to stand for something. We stand for that. We believe in pluralism. We believe in the rule of law. We don't support Maduro. We don't support other dictators. We don't support the drug trade. We don't support organized crime. We don't support corruption. And we don't support the buying of elections. And we don't support interfering in elections. We're a democracy. And there are a lot of other democracies in the world. And the democracies in the world need to fight back and stand up and say it's not just about what's good for me, what's good for my hemisphere. It's about what's good for our world, the world that we share. So that's what Canada stands for.
So how do you approach that now? Because, Mexico, he has declared the drug cartels, I believe, as a terrorist organization, which would allow him to give permission to take military strikes in there. And he suggested that that's an option. The national security strategy, which claims dominance over the hemisphere to control strategically vital assets. Venezuelan oil would fit into that. It talks about the use of lethal force to take out drug traffickers. So Mexico has been warned. Canada, he doesn't talk about the 51st state as much anymore, but, Greenland, whatever happens there, Denmark's a founding member of NATO. How do you respond to this, given the economic issues, the diplomatic issues, and just raw political issues? What do you do if you're Canada?
We respond clearly, and we respond emphatically, and we talk to others about what the nature of the challenge that is now posed to democracy and the rule of law in our world. These issues are not going to be settled by impromptu press conferences on a plane. These issues are going to be settled by reasoned discussion among member states who fought against Hitler, who fought against totalitarianism, who fought in favor of peace, who created the United Nations, who created the Organization of American States, who built up democratic institutions all around the world. And the idea that we would just throw all this out in the name of some doctrine that's invented and reinvented and unilaterally imposed is frankly nonsensical. And if now that I'm not working for anybody except for myself, I can honestly say this emperor has no clothes. We need to call it as it is. It's a tough world out there. We should make it as easy for all of us as possible, instead of making it as rough and tumble and insecure and violent as some people seem to want to make it.
It's interesting if you read the national security strategy and look at the actions taken. You can see the path, right?
Read my Substack, David.
Yeah, I did.
When it came out, I was told by some people, I said, oh, don't worry about it. He's just, it's not him. It's a bunch of people around him and they don't know what they're talking about. Don't worry. Don't give it another thought. And I said, you got to be kidding me. This is the national security strategy of the United States. It was repeated by Ambassador Waltz today. And as I said in my Substack, and as clearly as it could be said, it isn't good enough to say, this is us first, me first. Yeah. So the first thing we're taught in kindergarten is, Johnny, it's not me first. Or maybe it's even saying it to David. David, it's not me first. It's others too, and be nice to others, and be kind to others. What is the morality of just saying we're going to live in a world where it's me first? This is a crazy approach to life. We have to understand what we owe each other and how we need to work together in solidarity. You don't, just stare in front of a mirror and say me first. You've got to look at other people and understand the context in which we're living and working. And the context is of a very fragile world, a fragile planet, which requires care and attention, nuclear weaponry, many, many countries that are not democratic or under any kind of sensible control. We've got to deal with these issues in a way that's thoughtful and real. And that's the risk that we're running in taking the approach that is being suggested.
So look, it's spelled out very clearly in this strategy. You heard all of his advisors say at various points over the weekend, take the president seriously. When he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. They're telling us these things, and it reminds me of a bit of Thucydides, that the strong will do what they can and the weak will endure what they must. So we're going to hear from the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, tomorrow in Paris for the first time in person since all of this happened at a conference about Ukraine. I mean, what do you expect to hear from the Prime Minister? And as a final point, how do you think this colors this coalition of the willing gathering to try to support Ukraine in peace?
Well, I think the challenge for the coalition, the willing, is going to be our own internal consistency and what we're really prepared to do to support the kind of integrity that we need to. We're dealing with a terrible dictator, Putin. We're dealing with the Russians who have created such hardship and misery for their own people, but also for the people of Ukraine. And we cannot let him win. We can't let him succeed. And we can't let anything or anybody deter us from our determination not to let Putin have a victory. And we also need to understand the problem with the way in which these events have unfolded over the weekend and the things that have been said is that if one regional power says, well, here's my doctrine and this is what we're going to do, what stops the other regional powers from saying exactly the same thing?
Right.
I mean, the Russians and the Chinese will use the Security Council to condemn what the Americans to do. But you know what I think? I think that privately they're just rubbing their hands because they know perfectly well that the Americans will have no case to make against the way in which they have acted, against their acting. They'll have no argument. They've lost any sense of legality that would justify saying this is why we're doing what we're doing. And I think that it's not just what's being done, it's the way things are being done that ultimately is unsustainable. And that, I think, is, if this isn't part of the conversation among Western governments meeting in Paris privately, if not publicly, I'd be very disappointed because we do have to wake up. This is not business as normal, and this is not politics as usual. You don't go around threatening peaceful countries like Denmark and Greenland. Mm. You don't go around threatening your neighbors like Mexico. And as for us, well, some may take comfort from the fact that the president has not yet said anything publicly one more time about the 51st state. But I, for one, am absolutely convinced that the president of the United States firmly believes that Canada should be part of the United States. End of subject, end of debate. And that is the position that I believe firmly he has. And I think he's articulated it a number of times. And I think it's insulting to us. It's also, frankly, insulting to the American people. We want to have a partnership with the American people. We want to live together in democracy as we have for our own 150 years. And we do not want to have a relationship that is as antagonistic and as power-fed as the relationship now appears to be.
Right. Look, Bob Rae, we're gone over time, but I want to get a quick thought on the departure of the person who succeeded you in the University Rosedale seat. Chrystia Freeland announced that she'll be resigning from Parliament later this month to take on this role as an advisor to President Zelensky on the rebuilding of Ukraine. That's a post that she accepted. We've got a tweet from Prime Minister Mark Carney saying, "Thank you, Chrystia, for your important work as Special Representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine. You are uniquely qualified for this important new role. It is a further credit to Canada's steadfast support support for Ukraine, that a Canadian is taking on the role at this crucial moment for Ukraine's future. Canada will continue to stand with Ukraine to ensure a just and lasting peace. Now, I don't know if you're planning to run on that now that you're out of the diplomatic game, because there's going to be a by-election, but just your quick thoughts on the departure of Chrystia Freeland, Bob Rae.
Well, my wife is not with me. I'm in my office at Massey College, so I would only say that I think that scenario is implausible. The second thing I would say is Chrystia is a dear friend. I think I can reveal the secret that she and I are having supper tonight. Our families are dining together, and I will be sharing with her the great affection that I have for her, and also the extraordinary task that she's taken on. She's in a unique position. Chrystia has always been a fighter for democracy in Ukraine. This has been a lifeblood of her interest and her concern and her very being. So the fact that she's now taking on this role before she as well goes to Oxford in the next summer, I think is a great thing for her. It's also a great thing for Ukraine. And frankly, it's a great thing for Canada, because I think it's a reflection of who we are as a country that has taken in people from all over the world. Christia's family came to us from Ukraine. Never lose touch with their home country, always connecting, and then taking this kind of role. I think it's a wonderful reflection of Canada. I've loved working with Chrystia. She's been a terrific successor to me. And she'll be a terrific predecessor to somebody else. But I really look forward to spending some time with her tonight and sharing a moment of celebration as we talk about the future.
Okay, well, tell her we'd love to have her on the show tomorrow if she wants to talk about her new job. All right, I got to get to my next guest.
David, she's a woman who makes up her own mind.
She sure is.
What she's going to do.
All right, Bob Rae, always good to talk to you. That's former ambassador to the United Nations, Bob Rae. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Cheers.